Hi everyone, in this video we will be reviewing a few of the things that we previously learned in Unity 3D while also discussing the steps that you all can take to complete your project. We'll begin by finding the Lab Apps folder on our desktop, and within this we will open up our Unity program. When you open up Unity, it'll ask you to log in. The username is mxrlabosu@gmail.com and the password is capital T, lowercase e, sla.123. So mxrlabosu@gmail.com, Tesla, capital T.123. We'll sign in and click New, and we're going to name our project Project 2. Also make sure that it is a 3D project and that you enable the Unity analytics. You can also change the location of where your project is saved. We'll save ours to our desktop and then create our project. So when you first open up your file, you will see that it has only a directional light. Do not delete this light as it represents the sun. So to begin building our model, we'll go to Game Object, select 3D Object, and then Terrain. This will add the base for our model. Next, select Inspector on the right of your screen. Be sure to have the terrain selected, and we'll begin to add mountains. Select the Raise or Lower Terrain button. You can also change what the brush looks like and the brush size. So go ahead and click on your terrain in order to add height to it, and we'll zoom out a little bit here so that we can see it better. So just click and drag your mouse, and if it's too tall or you want to get rid of it, just hold down Shift, click on it again, and it will lower the terrain. Next, we're going to add grass to our terrain by clicking this icon that looks like flowers. It's labeled Place Plants, Stones, and Other Foliage. Again, we can change the brush size, edit details, or the type of brush. We'll begin by going to our Asset Store and typing in World Builder. When you type this in, you want to be sure to select Free Assets under Pricing, and it should be the first asset to pop up. We'll go ahead and download this and import it into our model. Be sure to click Import twice, and then we'll wait for it to load. So once it's loaded, we'll go back to our scene, click on Edit Details, add grass texture, and then next to Detail Texture, click that little circle, scroll down until you find grass, click Add, and then you can find it added to our Details panel on the right. Now we can also change the brush size of the grass. We'll increase it, and then we'll click on our terrain and move our mouse around in order to add the grass. If you have difficulty seeing your grass, like we did, you may want to zoom into your terrain in order to see the detailing better. Let's add a little bit more grass here. And then we'll add trees by using this icon to the left that says Place Trees. We'll click Edit Tree, Add Tree, and then next to Tree Prefab, click that little circle, double click Big Tree, select Add, and again you can see the trees in our property panel to the right. You can also change the tree density and the brush size in order to add more or fewer trees. If you add trees somewhere where you don't want them, just hold down Shift, click on it, and it'll disappear. Next, we're going to add an environment to our terrain by going to Asset, Import Package, and Environment. After it loads, we're going to import the asset, expand the folder that says Assets, go to Environment, Water. We want the first water listed, again Water, and then Prefabs. Here you'll see that we have two listed. We want the first one, and we're going to drag and drop it into our model. As you can see, it's been added, but we can't see it very well, so we're going to use the Move tool to move it vertically so that it is sitting on top of our terrain. The next step is to go back to Game Object, 3D Object, and insert a cube. Use the red, green, and blue arrows to maneuver the cube closer to your original water feature. It might help to change the view of the terrain so that you can better maneuver it, but be sure to use just those 3 arrows in order to move your cube more accurately. So let's move this up just a little bit. There it is. So we'll move that to the side of our cube. Have it sitting on our terrain, and then we're going to scale it so that it looks more like a pool or a body of water. So let's finish scaling that, and then we'll go to materials, select the second one, drag and drop it onto our cube. But as you can see, as we move our original body of water up and down, that the second body of water is connected to it. And so we want to only use the rectangular body of water. So we're going to scale down this round feature until we can no longer see it. Now we're going to zoom in a little bit so that we can scale it more accurately. Finish scaling this, and once we're done, we should only be able to see the rectangular body of water. Next, we're going to add a particle system by going to Game Object, Effects, then Particle System. Then using the arrows on the Move tool will bring the system closer to our other features. We're going to raise this so that it is placed a little bit above the terrain. Let's zoom out here to find where our particle system's at. Looks like it's beneath our terrain, so we're going to use the Move tool to raise that up. Again, only using those arrows so that we have a more accurate maneuvering of our particle system. Once our particle system is placed close to our other features, we'll pan our view here a little bit to see it better. But now we can change the duration of the system by clicking on duration here on the right. We can change that number, or we can click on the word duration and slide it to the right. We can also increase our start delay, start time, start speed, and start size by clicking and sliding the mouse on each of those words to the right for each of them. Our goal here is to make our particle system look more like smoke so that we can add it to a chimney or to a fireplace so that it is more accurate within our model. There's no specific number, really just want it to look realistic. We can also change the color by clicking on the rectangle next to Start Color. So if we exit out of our particle system, we can click on it on the left-hand side and again re-edit anything that we want to make a change to. So next we're going to adjust our directional light and our terrain by selecting directional light in the left-hand panel, and then using the red and green arrows will also maneuver the light to be more directly over the terrain. You can also adjust the color of this light, much like we did the particle system. So let's make sure that we're happy with where we want that. And then if we go here to the right, click on this box, we can change the color. And as you can see, the color that's reflected off of our terrain also changes. We can also rotate it, and by rotating our directional light, we can change the time of day. We can also increase the intensity of our light, but we'll keep it 1 for now. Next, we're going to add an additional light source by going to Game Object, 3D Object, and Cube. So let's again move this cube so that we can see it better. Make sure it's above our terrain. We're going to also scale it a little bit, just so that we have a bigger surface to work with. Next, we're going to add our light source by going to Game Object, Light, and Point Light. We'll also move this so that it is above our cube and should be reflecting off of it. You may have to change the view of your screen in order to better see it. Let's move this just a little bit more. There it is. So with our point light, we can also edit the color of this as well as the range and the intensity here on the right side of our screen. And whenever you change the color, it should reflect off of your surface. So let's change the intensity so that we can see it a little bit better. And then we can also move that so that it affects what's being reflected off of our surface. We can also add a spotlight by going to Game Object, Light, and selecting Spotlight, much like we did with the point light. And we'll move this one so that it is by our cube as well. Looks like it may be beneath our terrain still, so let's bring that up. There it is. Let's move it over so that it's over our cube. And then we can change the intensity. And you can see that the circle underneath it is more intense, and then we can change the angle and the range as well. We can also change the type if we wanted it to be a point light, but we're going to keep it as a spotlight for now. Next, we'll add a character into our scene. And to do this, we will go up to Asset, Import Package, and then select Characters. After the asset loads, select Import, and then wait for it to finish loading into your model. Next, on the bottom of our screen, let's collapse that one and then find the folder labeled Characters, expand that, and find Prefabs under First Person Character. Drag and drop the first person controller into your model, and then let's move it so that it is on top of our terrain. Let's move it just to be closer to everything else. And then if we click play, we should be on top of our terrain. And then we can move around, see our terrain. We'll use our arrow keys to move back and forth. There's our light, and then we'll click escape, and then click the play button in order to leave game mode, and we'll go back to our scene. Next, we'll see the difference between a first-person controller and a third-person controller. So let's right-click on this controller and delete it. And then let's go to the bottom of our screen, find third-person controller, prefabs. We want the second one here. We can drag and drop that into our screen. Also, there's a main camera connected to it, so drag that underneath your controller, and then we can see what our controller will be seeing. Now I want to move that camera so that it is closer to our person, so that it is a more accurate view of what they're seeing. Remember to only use those arrows to maneuver it. And then you may need to click on your controller in order to find where it's at, in order to more accurately place your camera. So let's make the camera so that it is at eye level with our person. That looks about right. And then we can enter our play mode, and we can see what he sees and follow behind him. And then we'll click escape, click the play button, and then we're back in our scene. So the last thing that we are going to do is add an animation. To do this, we'll go to Game Object, 3D Object, and select Cube. Let's again move our cube so that it is near our person, so that we can see it in play mode. So let's move it just a little bit closer. Next, go to Window, Animation, and click Create. We'll save this within our asset folder, so you'll need to click back on the finder at the top. We're going to name ours New and click Save. Next, click this record button. We'll move this out so we can see it a little bit better. And then drag this white line across the time in order to add a duration to our video. And then we'll alter the cube, so we're going to rotate it. You can also change it via the y-axis. And then if we move this white line along it, we can see what our video looks like. We can also click play to see our video. Or we can enter into game mode. And there we can see our cube rotating in the sky. So now the last thing that we're going to do is add a skybox. So if we go to Asset Store, type in Skybox, be sure to click Free Assets Only, and then we want this to scroll down until we find Freebie Series. We'll download this and import it into our model. So once it's loaded into our model, let's go to Window, Lighting, and then Settings. Next, expand the arrow next to Environment. You'll see Default Skybox. Click this small circle. Let's expand this. And now we can change the skybox around our scene. So let's choose one of these here. And then if we go back to our scene, we can see the effects of our skybox. So let's pan around and we can see that our atmosphere has changed in our scene. You can see different ones. We're going to choose this one that says Sunless and click on that. Let's close this and go through the steps of saving. First, we'll save our scene. Be sure not to move it out of your asset folder. Let's copy this, type in Project 2, and save our file. Again, don't move it from assets. Next, let's go back to our files. We'll paste it here at the top, and then you should see all of your project. Go to your desktop, copy Project 2, and then close out of that. And then let's go back to File, Build Settings, add an open scene, make sure that it's PC, and then build it. This you can move to your desktop, and we're going to right-click, create a new folder on our desktop that we label Project 2 exe file. Double-click on that and save your Project 2 within this new folder on your desktop. It may take a few minutes for it to load. That's okay. Once it does finish loading, you should have 3 files, a data file, an animation file, and a Unity Player DLL. Select all 3 of these, right-click, send to compressed zip folder, and wait for it to save. Let's rename this our Project 2 zipped. And within this folder, you should have the other 3 files. In this zipped file, there's all of our data. This zipped file is the folder that you want to be sure to keep because it has all of the information that will help your project to be downloaded by somebody else and to run correctly. So thanks for watching, guys. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you soon. Bye.